Shadows. When we stare out into that void, are we entirely certain the void doesn't stare back at us? Today, we're going to be talking about shadow people and the Hat Man. Hello and welcome back to my channel. Make certain you hit the like and subscribe button and ring that notification bell for updates on videos like this and many others. Who knows what evil lurks within the hearts of men? The shadow knows. Shadows. Some people believe they are sentient beings. Shadows. The natives along the California coast believed in entities called the Dark Watchers. They would inhabit mountaintops and sometimes could be the size of trees, usually appearing in groups. But it is not uncommon to see a lone Dark Watcher in the night when you're alone. It is, however, important to not pay any attention to those watchers. If you leave them alone, they will leave you alone. There is another form of shadow person, and they are terrifying for the fact that they are a person. These shadow beings have no faces. They have no eyes. When you see them, they bring fear. They watch you without an eye, without faces. They watch you. They watch you. One such story comes to us from my very good friend Alexandra. At the time, she was with her ex, whom was a military mortician, and he dealt with death on the regular. However, he did not have the eyes to see beyond. When he would come home from deployment, Alexandra would be awakened in the night by a somewhat vaguely human shadow, lacking those human traits as a face and eyes, and yet lacking those human traits could still stare and give the feeling of fear and dread and loathing. She would startle awake and she would scream, "Leave me alone!" Or sometimes she would grab a book from the bedside table and she would fling it into that darkness. This would startle her ex awake and he would say, "What is it? I don't see anything." As time went on, several of the fellows decided they were going to get tattoos, and the ex decided a great tattoo for his back would be that same dark shadow person. Alexandra protested and said, "I awaken already to this shadow, and unless you want to wear a shirt to bed for the rest of your life, do not get this tattoo." He didn't get the tattoo, but he had the thought to get the same shape on his person that Lady Alexandra had seen. When she was leaving him, she was driving across country with her father, and they found themselves in a little town in Arizona, which was creepy and scary from the get-go. Shops were closed and full of odd curiosities. In the hotel that evening, she had nightmares the whole night through of this shadow figure stalking her, prying open the windows and crawling into the room. She startled awake, and there, at the side of her bed, stood that same shadow figure that had plagued her the entire time she was with her ex. She startled her father awake and said, "No, it was just a bad dream. It was just a bad dream." The following morning, when the father woke up, he said, "Let's stay another night." Alexandra protested, "No, we need to leave. I cannot come back here." And she never did. In a story that happened to my own dear mother, way back in the 1960s, she and her then husband lived in a home that many would describe as haunted. In the night, they would hear people talking, full-on conversations. They would hear a roaring fire crackling, and they would smell frying bacon. My mother, being the braver of the two, decided to explore the haunted old house. Going to the kitchen, when she opened the door, not only did she not find people, she didn't find fire or bacon. The room was cold as ice. On her route back to her bedroom, she paused outside the door of my older half-brother and noticed that on the inside, the doorknob was turning, as if somebody wanted to get out. She said, "David, what's going on?" And she gently turned that knob and she let herself in, shining the light across his bedroom. My half-brother, awakened, rubbing his eyes, said, "Mom, what happened? Why are you coming in twice?" She said, "I haven't. This is the first time I've checked on you." He said, "No, somebody came in just moments ago and shined a light in my face." As my mother turned to exit the bedroom, right behind the door was another formless, shapeless, humanoid creature without a face. In that moment, as brave as she was, my mother experienced fear, and she invited my older half-brother, who was young at the time, to sleep in the bed with her. Many years passed. My mother became a widow, and she married my father. I was young in the occult world. I was new to spirits, and I started seeing something known as the Hat Man. I would be alone in the house, and I would see the shadow of a man wearing a broad-brimmed hat run from the kitchen through the dining room into the foyer. Now, in those days, I didn't know that there was a phenomenon known as the Hat Man. Some time went by, and my own mother happened to have noticed we were driving one day with my father, and my mother got a strange look on her face, and she said, "There is someone in our house who is not in our house. I keep seeing the shadow of a man wearing a hat run from the kitchen through the dining room into the hallway." The Hat Man, oftentimes, people believe that he is a harbinger of death, and my father did die not long thereafter. The Hat Man is usually seen wearing a fedora, though sometimes it could be a cowboy hat or a top hat. He is usually in a cape or a trench coat. People who have witnessed the Hat Man believe that he may be Satan himself. And for a bonus story about the Hat Man, make certain you check out my Patreon. You know, when I was a young occultist, I opened doors that perhaps should have remained closed. As always, I've been your host, Richard-Lael Lillard, the Gentleman Psychic.